When he died of a drug overdose at age 27 in 1988, Jean-Michel Basquiat's paintings were selling for a few $1,000s. The art world saw him as a graffiti kid, not taking him seriously. But in 2017, his painting Untitled Skull sold for $110.5 million, the most expensive work by an American artist at that time. How did he transform from a homeless street artist to a $100 million icon? This is the story of how a rejected artist became a legend after death. But this story isn't just about price records. This is the story of a boy born in Brooklyn to a family of Haitian and Puerto Rican descent. A child who was in a traffic accident, read art books while hospitalized, then ran away from home to become a street artist. So how did that homeless kid become the star of 1980s New York art world? Why are his paintings so striking and so valuable? How did his friendship with Andy Warhol change his life? In this story, you'll learn Basquiat's street art career that began with SAMO copyright graffiti, how he sold his first painting for $5, his place in New York's underground punk scene, how art galleries discovered him, also those legendary artworks, Hollywood Africans, Irony of Negro Policemen, Gold Griot, the struggle for black identity hidden in each painting, the history concealed in each symbol, the rebellion in each word, and of course, that tragic end, the pressures of success, fighting racism, drug addiction, the impact of Andy Warhol's death, and early death at 27. This isn't just an artist story. This is the story of 1980s New York, the era when hip-hop culture, punk music, and street art converged, and a black artist's struggle for existence in the white art world. How did Basquiat produce over 1,000 works in 8 years? Why are his paintings worth millions of dollars today? Why does Jay-Z call him the most important artist? Are you ready? Because this story isn't just about art. This is the story of identity struggle, creative genius, and early death. Jean-Michel Basquiat was born on December 22, 1960, in Brooklyn. His father, Gérard Basquiat, was a Haitian-born accountant. His mother, Mathilde, was a Puerto Rican graphic designer. Jean-Michel's family was middle class and very multicultural. Spanish, French, and English were spoken at home. This multilingual environment accelerated his intellectual development. He was very creative from an early age. His mother bought him drawing materials and took him to art museums. Jean-Michel's first inspirations began with these museum visits. Jean-Michel was a very active child, his mother would say. He was constantly drawing, creating something. At age 4, his father enrolled him in drawing classes. Jean-Michel learned very quickly and developed his own unique style. In 1968, when he was 8 years old, Jean-Michel had a very serious traffic accident. When hit by a car, his internal organs were damaged and his spleen was removed. While recovering in the hospital, his mother brought him Gray's anatomy book. This anatomy book greatly influenced Jean-Michel. The structure of the human body, bones, organs. The anatomical drawings he saw in this book would appear frequently in his future paintings. Skull, skeleton, organ motifs. That book changed my life, he would say years later. Seeing inside the human body was fascinating. The months spent in the hospital made him more introverted, but also increased his creativity. In 1968, his parents divorced. This was very traumatic for Jean-Michel. Especially his mother leaving home deeply affected him. He stayed with his father, but this relationship became very tense. Gerard was a disciplined, strict father. He couldn't understand Jean-Michel's artistic inclinations. "You can't make money with art," his father said. "You need to choose a serious profession." Jean-Michel began to become rebellious. He started skipping school frequently, spending time with friend groups. At 15, he discovered punk music. Sex Pistols, The Clash, Talking Heads. The energy of this music greatly affected him. He attended high school at an alternative school called City as School. This school was designed for creative students. Here, he met Al Diaz. The two began making graffiti together. Their signature was SAMO copyright, meaning same old shit. SAMO graffiti was very different. Not typical graffiti, but philosophical, poetic texts. SAMO copyright as an alternative to God. SAMO copyright for the so-called avant-garde. These graffiti began attracting attention in the Lower East Side. In 1977, at age 17, he had a big fight with his father and ran away from home. Now he was on his own. He slept in Washington Square Park, in abandoned buildings. Sometimes he stayed at friends' houses, sometimes spent nights on the streets. He found very creative ways to make money. Selling drawings on paper for $5, doing street performances, small thefts. "I studied at the University of the Streets," he would say. "Life was my teacher." In 1978, he became part of New York's underground music scene. He hung out at venues like Mud Club, CBGB, Max's Kansas City. Here he met musicians, artists, writers. Jean-Michel was very charismatic, intelligent, funny, attractive. He formed a noise/post-punk group called Grey. He played clarinet and made noisy music. During this period, SAMO copyright graffiti was also becoming more famous. The Village Voice newspaper began talking about these mysterious graffiti. "What is SAMO copyright? Who's making it?" they asked. In 1979, he fell out with Al Diaz. The SAMO project ended. Jean-Michel wrote his last graffiti, "SAMO copyright is dead." Now it was time to make art under his own name. He began preparing for his first painting exhibition. During this period, he worked very experimentally. Mixed media techniques on paper, collage, combinations of text and painting. The transition process from street art to gallery art was beginning. In 1980, he participated in the collective exhibition Times Square Show. This exhibition was much talked about in the New York art world. Jean-Michel's works attracted attention. They had a raw, powerful, different energy. After this exhibition, his first collectors discovered him. They began buying his paintings. His first sales were between $500 to $1,000. It was big money for Jean-Michel. "I won't sleep on the streets anymore," he told his friends. In the early 1980s, big changes were happening in the New York art world. Minimalism and conceptual art were beginning to be found boring. New movement, neo-expressionism, emotional, powerful, expressive paintings. Jean-Michel became one of the pioneers of this movement. His paintings were very impressive, very personal. Colors vibrant, lines spontaneous, images very powerful. "I'm not primitive," he said. "I express." In 1981, gallery owner ANNINA NOSEI discovered him and set up a studio in the basement of her own gallery. Jean-Michel worked intensively here. He painted 8 to 10 hours a day. In 1982, his first solo exhibition opened. It achieved great success. All paintings sold. Now Jean-Michel was a recognized artist. But he had bigger goals. "I want to be the best," he said. "The most famous, the most expensive." In 1982, art collector Bruno Bischofberger introduced Jean-Michel to Andy Warhol. Andy was 54, Jean-Michel was 22. They were very different characters, but immediately got along. Andy loved Jean-Michel's energy. Jean-Michel admired Andy's wisdom. "Andy is like my father," Jean-Michel would say. "I learn a lot from him." This friendship would change both their lives. In 1984 to 1985, Andy and Jean-Michel began making paintings together. The division of labor was like this. Andy made silk-screen prints, Jean-Michel added paintings on top. The results were very successful. The meeting of two different generations and styles, but some critics criticized this collaboration. Warhol is using the young artist. Jean-Michel was very angry at these criticisms. "I'm nobody's toy." Jean-Michel's paintings were very political. Black identity, racism, colonialism. The painting Hollywood Africans was very striking. It criticized black stereotypes. Irony of Negro Policemen was another powerful work. It looked at the dilemma of blacks within the system. "I am a black artist," he said. "This is my identity. I won't hide it." Being in the white art world wasn't easy. He constantly faced racial comments. In 1985, he appeared on the cover of Time magazine, "New Art, New Money." Now he was known worldwide. Exhibitions opened in Europe. Collectors competed for his paintings. Prices were rising rapidly. They had risen to between $50,000 to $100,000. He had become a millionaire at 27, but this success required a price. Pressures were increasing. Everyone expected something from him. With success came increased drug use. Cocaine, heroin. Jean-Michel thought he was using these to increase his creativity, but actually he was destroying himself. His friends tried to warn him, "This won't work. You're killing yourself." But Jean-Michel wouldn't listen. "I'm in control," he said. During this period, his paintings became darker, more angry. On February 22, 1987, Andy Warhol died after surgery. It was a great shock for Jean-Michel. "I lost my closest friend," he said, crying. "Andy was my mentor. He didn't want to go to Andy's funeral. He was too upset." This death greatly affected Jean-Michel. Depression, loneliness, hopelessness, drug use increased even more. Between 1987 to 1988, he worked very intensively. As if he knew his time was short, the paintings from this period were very powerful but very dark. Eroica, reference to Beethoven. Riding with Death. Graveyards. The theme of death became very prominent. Skull motifs, apocalyptic images. "I'm dancing with death," he told his friends. In summer 1988, Jean-Michel was living alone in his studio on Great Jones Street. Drug use was at its peak. His relationships with friends had deteriorated. On August 12, 1988, he was found dead in his studio. Heroin overdose. He was 27 years old. He had only had an 8-year professional art career. His funeral was held in Brooklyn. Hundreds of people came. When Jean-Michel died, his paintings sold for between $15,000 to $50,000. But from the 1990s onwards, prices began rising rapidly. 1996, Untitled, Head, $93,000. 2007, Profit Wami, $13.5 million. 2012, Untitled, Devil, $26.4 million. 2017, Untitled, Skull, $110.5 million. This last sale broke records. Jean-Michel's legacy isn't limited to paintings alone. Hip-hop artists love him. Jay-Z, most important artist. Swizz Beatz, my inspiration. Pharrell Williams, genius. His works are used in music videos, album covers. Today, Jean-Michel's works are in the most prestigious museums. MoMA, New York; Whitney Museum; Tate Modern, London; Centre Pompidou, Paris. Exhibitions are very crowded. Especially the young generation is very interested. Jean-Michel's iconic appearance influences the fashion world. Supreme clothing collections, Urban Outfitters posters, street art influence his style. Armani jackets, plus worn jeans plus dreadlocks. Because his story is so intriguing, many films have been made. Radiant Child, 2010. Documentary, The Radiant Child, 2016. Biography, SAMO Lives, 2017. Graffiti period. Each film brings new generation fans. Popularity also brought counterfeiting. There are many fake Basquiat paintings. The Jean-Michel Foundation constantly sues counterfeiters. In 2019, 24 out of 25 paintings at the Orlando Museum turned out to be fake. On Instagram, the hashtag Basquiat sees millions of uses. Street art, i.e. artists, pay tribute to him. His works are also very valuable in the NFT world. Jean-Michel's success inspires young artists. Legitimization of street art. Making black artists' voices heard. Challenging traditional art institutions. The doors of the art world opened. The movement he started in the 1980s is still influential. Kerry James Marshall, Kara Walker, David Hammonds. These artists follow Jean-Michel's path. His paintings are now seen as investment vehicles. Hedge funds are buying, going to private museums. Crypto millionaires are collectors, one of the hottest names in the art market. All this popularity also brings criticism. Basquiat has become a commodity. Real art value has been lost. Overpriced and overhyped. But fans object. Genius deserves recognition. Jean-Michel Basquiat's story is an incredible journey from street art to museum walls. In his short 8-year career, he produced over 1,000 works and changed art history. His greatest achievement wasn't just money. As a black artist, making space in the white art world, bringing street culture to gallery walls. I am a black artist. I am black first, then an artist. I live both at once. When he died at 27, they said it was too early. But maybe the intensity lived was a lifetime compressed into 27 years. What about you? On which street canvas are you expressing yourself? Are you ready, like Jean-Michel, to challenge the system from outside to inside? Basquiat's story shows that real art is born from life experience. And sometimes the most powerful voices come from the most unexpected places. From homelessness to millions of dollars, from rejection to becoming an icon is possible. What matters is finding your own voice and never staying silent. From a graffiti kid sleeping in Washington Square Park to the most expensive American artist, Jean-Michel proved that authenticity and raw talent can break through any barrier. His crown symbol wasn't just artistic, it was prophetic. Sometimes the streets teach you more than any art school ever could. What's your story going to be?